Have you ever discovered something so cruel that it made your entire world stop, right in the middle of a quiet night? That's what happened to me, Ruth Collins, when my phone buzzed at 11:37 p.m. I was standing in front of my bathroom mirror, toothbrush in hand, the mint foam still on my lips. The kind of tired where your body moves on autopilot and your brain has already clocked out. I'd been reviewing spreadsheets all evening, financial projections for a client who couldn't decide between conservative growth and aggressive expansion. Numbers. Always numbers. That's what my life had become. Then my phone lit up on the counter.
Once. Twice.
7 times in rapid succession. The family group chat. I almost ignored it. We weren't exactly the type of family that texted goodnight or shared memes. Our conversations were functional. Birthdays. Holidays. Who's bringing what to Thanksgiving? But this was different. The notifications kept coming one after another, like a drumbeat I couldn't silence. I rinsed my mouth, dried my hands, and picked up the phone. Can't wait to see the Coliseum. I've been dreaming about this since I was a kid.
Grace.
Make sure to pack light. We'll shop in Milan. I heard the leather goods there are incredible.
Noah.
I already downloaded the translation app. Should we book the wine tour in Tuscany now or wait?
Mom.
My hand froze midair. I read them again. Slower this time. Dissecting each word like evidence at a crime scene.
Rome.
Milan. Tuscany. The Colosseum. Wine tours. Leather goods. My entire family was going on a vacation to Italy. Without me. I scrolled up through the thread, my heart pounding harder with each swipe. There were dozens of messages I'd somehow missed. Flight times. Hotel reservations. Restaurant recommendations. A shared Pinterest board titled Collins Family Italian Adventure. My mother, Linda. My brother, Noah. My sister, Grace. Every single one of them was tagged in the thread. Everyone but me. At first, I told myself it was a mistake. A technical glitch. Maybe I'd been accidentally removed from the group? It happens, right? People fat-finger the settings all the time. I even checked the chat info to see if I was still listed as a member. I was. I'd been there the whole time.
Silent.
Invisible. Forgotten. Then another message dropped, and with it, a photo. A screenshot of a flight confirmation. 6 tickets. Seattle to Rome, direct. Departure, June 14th. Return, June 28th. 2 weeks in Italy. My mother's message beneath it made my blood run cold. Finally, a family trip we all deserve. I read it 3 times. A family trip we all deserve. Except I wasn't part of that we. I sat down on my couch, still holding the phone like it might explode. The apartment around me felt suddenly too quiet, too still. The hum of the refrigerator. The distant sound of a car passing on the street below. My own breathing, shallow and uneven. I stared at the screen until it dimmed, then tapped it back to life. I needed to see it again. To confirm, I wasn't imagining this. That's when I noticed something else. At the bottom of the flight confirmation screenshot, in small gray text, was a credit card number. The last 4 digits were partially visible. 7,823. My card. I lunged for my purse, dumped the contents onto the coffee table, and grabbed my wallet. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my credit card and held it up to the light. 7,823.
No. No, no, no.
I opened my banking app, my fingers slipping on the screen. The page loaded. Recent transactions. And there it was, clear as day. $11,420, Italian Destinations Travel Agency. Date, May 3rd. 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, someone had used my credit card to book a family vacation to Italy. A vacation I wasn't invited to. A vacation they were all openly, joyfully planning in front of me, as if I didn't exist. I felt something crack inside my chest. Not my heart, that was too poetic. This was sharper. Colder. Like the sound of ice splitting under pressure. I scrolled through my messages again, looking for any mention of my name. Any acknowledgement. Any explanation. Nothing. Just excitement.
Just joy.
Just a family bonding over a trip they were taking with my money. My phone buzzed again. Another message. Ruth, can you Venmo me $200 for spending cash? I want to make sure I have enough for souvenirs. Grace. I stared at the message until my vision blurred. They didn't just exclude me. They used my money to leave me behind. And the worst part? They expected me to keep paying. The next morning, I walked into my law office like nothing had happened. The sun was already streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Caldwell and Associates, casting long golden rectangles across the polished hardwood floors. My colleagues gathered around the coffee station, laughing about someone's disastrous Tinder date. Sarah from Contracts waved at me with her usual bright smile. Morning, Ruth. You look tired. Late night. I smiled back, the kind of smile I'd perfected over years of client meetings and courtroom poker faces. Just catching up on some reading. Reading messages about how my family is stealing from me, I thought, but I kept my expression neutral, pleasant even. Inside, I was imagining strangling my sister with one of those designer scarves she loved to post on Instagram. The silk Hermes one. The one that cost more than my monthly car payment. I settled into my office, closed the door, and opened my laptop. My banking app was still open from the night before. I'd fallen asleep staring at it, hoping that somehow the numbers would change when I woke up. That it had all been a nightmare born from too much work stress and too little sleep. But there it was, exactly as I'd left it. Balance, $3,247.89. 3 weeks ago, that number had been $18,673.14. $15,000.
Gone.
I clicked through the transaction history, my jaw clenching tighter with each line item. $11,420. Italian destinations travel agency $1,850. Villa rental deposit, Florence $967. Rome luxury tours $543. Milan shopping experience pre-order $220. Wine tasting package, Tuscany. Every single transaction linked to travel agencies in Florence, Rome, and the Amalfi Coast. Every single one authorized with my card. My money. My emergency fund that I'd spent 5 years building, dollar by dollar, through late nights and weekend work. And then I remembered. It was like watching a movie reel click into place. 6 months ago. November. My mother's surgery. She'd called me crying, her voice trembling with that particular tone she used when she needed something. Ruthie, sweetheart, I need to ask you something, and I hate that I have to. I'd driven down to Portland that weekend. Found her sitting at the kitchen table, looking smaller than I remembered, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea that had long gone cold. The surgery costs more than we thought, she'd said, tears streaming down her face. Your father's insurance won't cover everything. I just need temporary access to your emergency account. Just in case. I promise I'll never touch it unless I absolutely have to. Just in case. I'd held her hand. Told her it was okay. Set her up as an authorized user on my savings account, the one I'd kept separate from everything else. My safety net. My future. I'll pay you back, sweetheart. Every penny. Yeah. She had to use it, all right. Had to fly to Italy. I spent my entire lunch break in my office with the door locked, combing through bank statements like they were evidence files. I printed everything. Highlighted every transaction. Built a timeline. This was what I did for a living. Dissect financial trails. Find the truth buried in numbers and dates. Every souvenir they'd pre-ordered online. Every family villa deposit made months in advance. The upgraded airline seats. The private tour guides. The cooking class in Bologna that cost $400 per person. All under my name. All with my money. All while they planned and laughed and dreamed about their Italian adventure in a group chat I was part of, but somehow excluded from. I didn't cry. Not once. I'd cried out all my tears somewhere around 3 a.m, curled up on my bathroom floor, my phone still clutched in my hand. Now there was nothing left but a cold, crystalline clarity. I closed my laptop slowly, deliberately, and whispered to the empty office. If they think I'm funding their dream trip, I'll make it a trip they'll never forget. Then I picked up my phone and called my bank. The representative was chipper, helpful. I told her I needed to secure my accounts due to unauthorized access. She didn't ask questions. She didn't need to. This happened all the time, apparently. Family members, partners, people you trusted. Within 30 minutes, everything was moved into a new account. New numbers, new cards. The old account? Flagged. Frozen. Any attempt to use those card numbers would be declined immediately. I sat back in my chair, staring at the Seattle skyline through my window. The Space Needle gleamed in the distance, and for the first time in 12 hours, I felt something other than pain. I felt powerful. The next morning, my phone buzzed while I was reviewing a brief. A text from Grace, complete with airplane and Italian flag emojis. We're boarding. Don't worry, we'll FaceTime you from the Amalfi Coast. Wish you could see it. Italy. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a long moment. Then I typed back. Oh, I'll see it. Trust me. And I hit send. 3 days later, I got the call. I was in the middle of a deposition, sitting across from a nervous accountant who kept adjusting his tie while my associate asked him about offshore accounts. My phone vibrated against the mahogany table. Once.
Twice.
Then it started ringing.
Mom.
I let it go to voicemail. Then she called again immediately. And again. I excused myself, stepping into the hallway, and answered. Ruth. My mother's voice came through the line like shattered glass, sharp, trembling, barely holding together. We have a problem. I pressed the phone closer to my ear, my heart suddenly racing despite the cool composure I'd maintained for the past 72 hours. What kind of problem? The villa. In Florence. They say. She stopped, and I could hear her breathing, ragged and confused. They say it's already occupied. By you. I nearly laughed. The sound almost escaped my throat, bubbling up like champagne, but I swallowed it down and turned it into concern.
What?
That doesn't make any sense. That's what I told them. Her voice pitched higher, hysteria creeping in at the edges. But they're insisting. They have records. A booking under Ruth Collins. They say you checked in 2 days ago, and the reservation runs through the end of the month. I leaned against the cool wall of the corridor, closing my eyes, remembering. 6 months ago. November. Right after my father's funeral. I needed to escape. Needed to disappear. Needed to be somewhere where nobody knew me, where nobody could ask if I was okay, with that pitying look in their eyes. So I'd booked a villa in Florence under my own name. Spent 2 weeks there alone, walking through museums, crying in cafes, trying to figure out who Ruth Collins was supposed to be now that Dad was gone. The villa had been perfect. Terracotta tiles. Olive trees in the garden. A view of the Duomo from the bedroom window. I'd used Harper Reed as my day-to-day alias, for restaurant reservations, tour bookings, anything that required a name but not legal documentation. But the villa rental contract? The insurance? The security deposit? All of that had my real name buried deep in the records. My legal name, Ruth Elizabeth Collins. And I'd never officially checked out. The system thought I was still there. My ghost, haunting the place they'd chosen for their family dream vacation. That's so strange, Mom, I said softly, injecting just the right amount of confusion into my voice. I haven't been to Italy in years. Maybe it's some kind of identity theft? Or a computer error? That's what I thought, but she was drowned out by noise in the background. Raised voices. Someone speaking rapid Italian. A woman's voice, Grace, high-pitched and panicked. What do you mean we can't stay here? We have a reservation. Then Noah, louder, angrier. This is ridiculous. We paid for this. Check your records again. Hotel staff arguing back in broken English. Luggage being dragged across tile floors. The chaos of a family vacation imploding in real time. I could picture it perfectly. The 4 of them standing in the marble lobby of some boutique hotel in Florence, jet-lagged and exhausted, surrounded by their designer luggage, while apologetic hotel manager explained that their villa, the one they'd specifically chosen, the one Mom had posted about in the group chat with heart-eye emojis, was unavailable. Occupied. By me. Maybe it's destiny, I said quietly, almost to myself.
What?
Mom's voice cracked. Nothing. Just that's really strange. Have you tried calling the rental company directly? We're on hold with them now, but more shouting in the background. Noah's voice cutting through. How much for another villa? Are you serious? That's double. I smiled at my reflection in the glass window of a conference room across the hall. My face looked calm, serene even. They'd wanted to enjoy Italy without me. They'd wanted to take my money, plan their perfect family adventure, leave me behind like I was nothing more than an ATM with emotions.
Fine.
But they wouldn't enjoy it with my name on every bill, every booking, every reservation. They wouldn't enjoy it at all. Mom, I'm sure it'll work out, I said, my voice honey-sweet with false reassurance. These things always do. Maybe you'll find something even better. I hope so. She sounded small now, defeated. This was supposed to be perfect. Our family trip. After everything. After everything. After Dad died. After she promised she'd never touch my emergency fund. After they all decided I wasn't family enough to include. I know, Mom. I'm sorry you're going through this. The line went quiet for a moment, and I thought she might say something. Apologize. Explain. Acknowledge that I existed. Instead, she just sighed and said, I have to go. We need to figure this out. She hung up. I stood there in the hallway, staring at my phone, feeling that cold clarity settle deeper into my bones. Then my phone buzzed again. A text from Noah. Ruth, did you cancel our cards? Mine just got declined at the hotel. What the hell is going on? I looked at my reflection in the window one more time. My smile widened, sharp as a knife. I typed back slowly, deliberately. Not yet. And I hit send. By day 5, their paradise collapsed. I know this because I was there for all of it, not physically but digitally. Every frantic phone call that I let go to voicemail. Every increasingly desperate text message. Every voice note where someone's voice cracked with exhaustion or rage or tears. The cards were frozen. All of them. The villa had kicked them out after the first night when the secondary payment couldn't be processed. They'd scrambled to find a hotel, any hotel, but it was peak tourist season in Florence, and everything affordable was booked solid. They ended up in a cramped pension near the train station, the kind of place with thin walls and a shared bathroom down the hall. Grace had posted a photo on Instagram before quickly deleting it. I'd screenshot it anyway. For beds crammed into a room meant for 2. Peeling wallpaper. A window that overlooked a dumpster. The bank had flagged everything as suspected fraud after the 3rd decline transaction in 3 hours. My phone had exploded. 17 missed calls from Noah. 23 text messages. 6 voicemails from Grace, each one more hysterical than the last. Mom had sent a voice note that was just her crying, not even forming words, just raw sobbing that went on for 47 seconds. I didn't pick up. Not once. Instead, I made myself a cup of coffee, French press, the good Ethiopian beans I saved for special occasions, and settled onto my couch. I turned on the morning news, the local Seattle station I usually had on as background noise while getting ready for work. The anchor was discussing traffic on I-5 when a headline scrolled across the bottom of the screen. American tourists stranded in Florence amid banking error. Family claims fraud. I took a slow sip of my coffee. I knew that error well.
Intimately, actually.
I'd triggered it myself when I'd called the bank, reported unauthorized use, frozen the old accounts, and flagged any associated cards for fraud review. It was remarkably easy when you were the primary account holder and had documentation showing you'd never authorized international transactions. The bank had been apologetic, efficient, helpful. They'd asked if I wanted to press charges. I'd said I needed time to think about it. I set my coffee down and picked up my phone, scrolling through the messages I'd ignored. Noah's were the angriest. Answer your phone. This isn't funny, Ruth. We're stuck here because of you. Mom is having a panic attack and Grace hasn't eaten in 2 days. You're going to regret this. Grace's were more pathetic. Please, Ruthie, I'm sorry. I don't know what we did, but please just fix this. We'll pay you back, I promise. Mom is crying nonstop and I don't know what to do. Mom hadn't texted at all. Just those voice notes. Just crying. I should have felt guilty. Some part of me, the old Ruth, the good daughter, the reliable sister, should have been horrified at what I'd done. But I wasn't. I felt nothing but that cold, clear satisfaction. They'd wanted a family trip without me. Now they had one. I was about to put my phone down when it pinged. Not a text. An email. The sender made my stomach drop. Florence Police Department. Fraud Investigation Unit. My hands went cold as I opened it. Subject: Fraud Investigation. Account under review. Dear Ms. Collins, we are writing to inform you that a formal complaint has been filed regarding suspicious financial activity linked to your accounts. The complaint alleges money laundering and fraudulent use of deceased identity documentation, specifically utilizing the signature and identification of Mr. David Collins, deceased November 2024. You are required to contact our office within 48 hours to provide documentation and testimony regarding these allegations. Failure to respond may result in an international warrant and extradition proceedings. I read it 3 times. Money laundering. Fraudulent use of a deceased person's identity. My father's signature. Someone had filed a police report against me. Someone had accused me of using my dead father's identity to commit fraud. My mind raced. Mom wouldn't. She was too much of a coward, too dependent on playing the victim. Grace didn't have the spine or the intelligence to pull something like this together.
But Noah was a CPA.
Noah understood financial systems, documentation, legal procedures. Noah had been the one to handle Dad's estate paperwork, had spent weeks going through everything in the house, organizing files, making copies. Noah had access to everything. I pulled up my father's will documents on my laptop, the digital copies I'd saved. Started searching through the folders. Banking documents. Insurance policies. The death certificate. Then I found it. A scanned copy of my father's driver's license. One I'd never made. The metadata showed it was scanned 3 years ago, a year before Dad died. Noah had stolen it. Had kept it. Had been planning something even then. And now he was framing me to cover his tracks, to explain away the transactions, to make me the criminal instead of the victim. My phone buzzed. A text from Noah. Just 4 words.
You started this, Ruth.
Now finish it. I stared at the message for a long moment. At the threat hidden in plain sight. At the game he thought he was playing. He had no idea who he was dealing with. I wasn't just Ruth Collins, the good daughter, who paid for everything. I wasn't the invisible sister they could use and discard. I was an attorney specializing in financial fraud and estate law. And he just handed me all the evidence I needed. I whispered to my empty apartment, my voice steady and cold. Gladly. I booked the next flight to Italy. No hesitation. 17 hours. Seattle to Frankfurt to Florence. I didn't sleep. Didn't eat anything except the stale pretzels they handed out somewhere over the Atlantic. Just sat in my window seat, staring at the clouds, building my case in my mind the way I'd done 1,000 times before in courtrooms. Evidence. Timeline. Motive. Method. Noah thought he was clever. Thought he could use our father's identity to cover his tracks, to paint me as the criminal while he played the devastated son, the protective brother trying to save his family from their own sister's madness. He'd miscalculated. When I landed at Florence Airport, the air hit me like a wall, thick with heat and jet fuel and something else. Tension. The kind that makes your skin prickle, that tells you a storm is coming even when the sky is clear. I found them near the terminal exit, clustered together like refugees. My mother sat on a bench, her designer sunglasses pushed up on her head, her face red and swollen from crying or sunburn or both. Grace stood beside her, clutching her phone like a lifeline, her usual Instagram-perfect appearance shattered. No makeup. Hair pulled back in a messy bun. Dark circles under her eyes. And Noah, standing apart from them, arms crossed, jaw clenched, still trying to look like he was in control.
They were exhausted, sunburnt, broke.
Beautiful. My mother saw me first. Her entire body jerked like she'd been shocked. She stood up, stumbled forward, her voice cracking the moment our eyes met. Why would you do this to us? Not, I'm sorry. Not, we should have included you. Not even, can we talk about this? Just blame. Just accusation. Just the same pattern that had played out my entire life. I didn't answer. My eyes went straight to Noah's wrist.
There.
Catching the fluorescent terminal lights. A watch I'd know anywhere. My father's Omega Seamaster. The one he'd worn every single day for 30 years. The one that had gone missing after the funeral, when we were sorting through his belongings. Mom had cried, said it must have been misplaced at the funeral home, that it was just one more thing grief had stolen from us.
But there it was.
On Noah's wrist. That was my confirmation. The final piece clicking into place. He hadn't just stolen Dad's ID for the fraud. He'd been taking things all along, piece by piece. Erasing our father while wearing his skin. You forged his signature, I said, my voice cutting through the airport noise like a blade. Didn't you? Noah's face went pale. For a second, just a flash, I saw fear. Real, genuine terror in his eyes. Then the defiance came roaring back. You ruined our family first, he spat. The words came out venomous, shaking. Always so perfect. Always Dad's favorite. Always the successful one while the rest of us struggled. You think you're better than us. Noah, what is she talking about? Mom's voice wavered. Stay out of this, he snapped without looking at her. Grace had gone silent, her eyes darting between us like she was watching a car crash in slow motion. The terminal crowd flowed around us. Tourists with rolling suitcases, families reuniting, lovers embracing. Normal people having normal moments while our family finally, irrevocably shattered. I stepped closer to Noah. Close enough to smell the sweat and desperation on him. Close enough to see my father's watch ticking away on his wrist. My voice dropped low, steady, the courtroom voice I used when I had a witness cornered.
No, Noah.
I just showed you who we really were. His mouth opened.
Closed.
No words came. You used me. Stole from me. Tried to frame me using Dad's identity. I paused, letting each word land like a gavel strike. But you forgot one thing. I'm actually good at my job. I turned away from him. From all of them. Walked toward the exit where the automatic doors were opening onto the Florentine heat, where taxis waited and the city glowed gold in the distance. The city I'd escaped to once before. The city that had witnessed my grief and now my vindication. Behind me, I heard Grace start to cry. Heard my mother say my name once, weakly, like a question she didn't really want answered. I kept walking. Through the terminal.
Past the taxi stands.
Into the crowded Piazza della Signoria, where tourists took photos and street artists painted portraits, and the statue of David's replica stood guard over it all. Florence embraced me like an old friend as I disappeared into the crowd. Just another woman in a sundress. Just another traveler seeking something in these ancient streets. Behind me, back at the airport, Noah's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out with shaking hands. One new message. Unknown number. Next time, check whose account you're stealing from. The police report you filed? I forwarded it to the FBI with documentation showing you had access to Dad's documents. Enjoy explaining that.
R.
His face went white as paper. The watch on his wrist kept ticking. They booked a trip without me. But I booked their lesson first class. What would you have done in her shoes? Would you forgive or finish the revenge? Comment your verdict below. Guilty or justified.